Quantum Entanglement. Chapter 2, Mouth. Parking is a nightmare. He squeezes Wes's Maserati into a spot that he's pretty sure isn't an actual parking space. But hopefully no one will care that much during a con. It would have been easier on the bike. But if the sun is out in Vegas, he wants air conditioning. And also, maybe, having a car would be convenient if certain bikini death nights could use a ride somewhere. Remains sitting in the car for 5 minutes, wondering why he's even bothering. But he ultimately knows the answer to that question and wishes he could rewrite the code to his excitable heart just a bit faster. He climbs out of the car and walks into a mildly outdated hotel lobby, finding Black Rock Reaper refusing to be consoled by some other chick dressed up as the Wolf Princess from that one Ghibli movie. He thinks, on second glance, that the princess is Halberd, one of the non-raiding hunters in the guild that had been at Denny's last night. Further observation reveals Mimi Nisa in commentary as the princess's white wolves, monk and paladin, respectively. Their blood-stained, white-furred costumes somehow make the Blackrock shooter getup look tame. Reaper makes a noise that sounds like it's ripped from a Jurassic Park sound reel. Halberd knots her fingers together in worry. "We have a panel to go to, but let me know if you need a ride home, okay?" Now or never. Soul sidles up to the group of girls, dodging a pile of luggage and feeling out of place in his street clothes. "Hey." Reaper whirls on him, her trench coat flapping open like a Hollywood slow-motion sequence, all previous thoughts of tame rocketing out the window. Her eyes are almost as fiery as those Google images, green subbed in for blue. "No one is talking to you, Eater!" Her countenance seems to shrink before his eyes, her arms crossing protectively over her bikini-clad chest. "Hi, what are you doing here?" He says, as commentary quietly tugs on Mimi and Halberd's arms. "Exiting stage anywhere but Repo's aggro radius." Then, to Soul's increasing distress, the platinum blonde paladin gives him a smile that leaves him feeling painfully transparent. This must be the Shadow Stag's cultist source from earlier. He only has himself to blame for this. He'd known he'd be stepping into the fucking Twilight Zone the moment he texted Stag this morning. He waves commentary off and hopes his pits aren't sweating like a friggin' hurricane. "You butt-dialed me," he finally says, turning to Reaper. "Sounded like dumb stuff was happening, and Stag said you'd be here. Thought I'd see what's up." After a few seconds of long false lashes blinking in confusion, Reaper Man looks down at her chest, and so he, unfortunately, does that too. She slowly pulls her phone out of some kind of holster attached to the side of her bikini, hidden under her trench coat. She frowns, a crinkle forming between her eyebrows. "I've called a lot of people, apparently." He doesn't bother covering up his laugh. "Poop dialed. An honor, indeed." Reaper gives him a barbed look that makes him quickly look away and wish he could feign death. "You were yelling about the rooms," he offers. And once she's reminded of why she's here in the first place, she's thankfully sidetracked by her earth-melting outrage. "My room's gone. I was supposed to share with someone else, but their psychotic mother canceled the reservation behind my back." She tilts her head back and actually hisses at the ceiling. "The resort didn't even notify me." "Well, that's shitty. Guessing everything's full." Reaper scoffs. "Yeah, along with every other place near the con. It could be worse. I only live like an hour from here, but I rode here with Sugumi, or Halberd, and them. Their room already has 6, but they said I could sleep in their bathtub." She scratches the side of her face very carefully, unwilling to smudge her makeup as she seriously contemplates sleeping in a bathtub for the weekend. Man. And he'd known that this was his hopeless heart's plan all along, but he didn't think he'd actually execute it. "My mom's place is 10 minutes from here. You can crash there, if you wanted." Her face, despite being framed in moody anime eyeliner, lights up like a supernova. Really? Soul's dimly aware of the collective sigh of relief of everyone else crammed in the lobby in wake of Reaper's improved mood. Are you sure? I have a lot of stuff. You're not doing anything? Like, I can get a cab or... Soul's trying to reconcile this scarily attractive, polite creature to the main tank who calls him a lazy bitch stick at least once a raid, and is failing with flying colors. I'm free. Not doing anything important. Reaper tackles him with a shrill caw of victory, and his immediate world is filled with tiny bikini girl-induced asphyxiation. 6-foot-long styrofoam megagun smacking him in the head. She's buckling her desktop into the back seat, trying not to get her wig tangled in the seatbelt. Are you kidding me right now? He asks, trying to fit all her cosplay luggage into the trashed trunk of Wes's car. It's already crammed with likely thousands of dollars worth of photo shoot freebies and designer shoes. You even brought your machine? I'm the MT eater, she says, tossing black bangs out of her eyes. Death would blow up the guild bank if I missed a night. Is this your car? With a drawl, he says, What? Didn't expect me to drive a Maserati? No hesitation whatsoever. Nope. Soul frowns. What kind of car were you expecting? Public transportation? He doesn't dignify that with a response, merely shuts the trunk with narrowed eyes. Look, you auto-follow me through dungeons 90% of the time because you're too lazy to steer yourself. I'm just saying. Well, he'll give her that one. It's my brother's car. Also, Death wouldn't blow up the bank if you missed a raid. We have other tanks, you know. Reaper backs out of the car and stands, leveling him with a haughty stare over the car's roof that's dreadful to his blood pressure. But are they as good as I am? He wishes the solar flares in his veins would stop trying to answer that question. Okay, Black Star, your ego needs a timeout. When do you want me to pick you up? She stutters, no longer the snarky Death Knight, and suddenly the girl he doesn't quite know. Is there a good time for you? He rolls a shoulder. I'm not doing anything today. Well, maybe grocery shopping, but let's not get carried away. I'll probably just go to Taco Bell. She gives him a laugh for that, before fidgeting a bit. Are you Just text me, he says. I'll show up. A slow smile picks up the side of her mouth, and some part of his brain is dutifully writing this image in the permanent archives. Okay. Back in the car again, hand hovering over the ignition button. The heat is climbing, Nevada sun slowly baking him alive. He hadn't needed to enter the con, so his shadow cultist voodoo pass had been for nothing. He hates crowds, doesn't know anything about anime, and is running on less than 6 hours of sleep. There's a pool at the house. There's over-processed Taco Bell nachos calling him. There's nothing for him here. Hand still hovering over the ignition button. This isn't your scene, Eater, he says to the car. Her mouth slinking to the side. Soul curses. First impression of con. Stank. It's like there's a world shortage of deodorant. He supposes wearing multiple layers of anime-inspired costume in Vegas could only be a recipe for disaster. But damn. People walking by occasionally stir up a serious, sweet onion jockstrap breeze, and Soul is a few whiffs away from some high school war flashbacks that center around Blake Strickland's harrowingly belated rise into personal hygiene. After a nearly eternal wait in line for his pass, in which he'd almost talked himself into ditching half a dozen times, he's managed to merge into some human fast travel lane without getting run over. Wondering where it's going to take him, and if the dude in front of him knows his ass crack is showing. No sign of Reaper, though he does find a drool-inducing notion of computers set up with varying multiplayer games. Ends up sidetracked by a StarCraft 2 competition for a few minutes. Then, hooked by the nose, finds himself in front of an overpriced nacho cart like it's destiny. Inhales this while keeping an eye out for oversized mega guns. Passes by a Nintendo merch table when someone shoves a Wii U controller into his hands, and now he's somehow in an SSB competition getting his ass kicked by a Pokemon. Eater? Uh-oh. Quick glance to the left. Skin and green eyes. Soul refocuses on the screen. Hey, shit. He loses. His character flying off the screen. As if being destroyed by a Pokemon wasn't bad enough, the winner turns to him and says, "Nice game, Kawaru." Soul realizes belatedly that it's ass crack from earlier, and he's holding out a hand for a clap and a fist bump. Yeah. Thanks, he says awkwardly, returning the gesture as the tiniest snark is heard behind him. Soul turns around with his lips pulled into a thin line, stalking over to a widely grinning Reaper. "Will you please tell me who the fuck Kawaru is?" he grumbles. She hands him her gun and pulls out her phone. While she's typing and struggling with her giggles, Soul is tempted to heft the gun and smack people with it. "What are you even doing here?" she asks. "What happened to Taco Bell?" "I don't know," he sighs, which is more or less true. "Shadow Clan?" Yeah, that sounds right," she replies, holding up the phone with some vintage anime art enlarged on the screen. "Meet your twin." Kaworu is apparently some stick-legged, effeminate, white-haired anime boy. Red eyes. Soul blinks at the kid's outfit and, in sweat-inducing panic, looks down at his own clothes. White fitted button-down, dark pair of Wes's designer jeans, white Converse high tops. Son of a fuck. Reaper puts a hand over her eyes, bowing over with laughter. His face is heating up. "Shut up. I do not smile that creepily." "You could, with practice." Soul's jaw drops open, pushing her phone away. "Oh no, I'm not gonna start role-playing some scrawny 90s era potentially gay." "Canonically," Reaper interrupts, still snickering as she takes her gun back from him. "Canonically gay." "Mother... all you need is a plug suit and you'd be famous." Soul splutters. "I don't want to be famous. What the hell is a plug suit?" he asks, horrified, which only makes her laugh harder. He has determined that cons, on top of causing strife to one's sense of smell, are painfully awkward in about 7 ways at any given time. Loud, and are flamboyantly outrageous. Yet, the event also, in some strange fashion, comes across as down to earth, which is pretty cool. It's his turn to spam Instagram with some of the coolest costumes he's ever seen. And he may or may not have some killer shots of Reaper doing action poses for passersby. An absurd amount of cash has been dropped on things he doesn't need whatsoever. Various gaming merchandise weighing down his arms and cutting off blood circulation. Not to say he hasn't enjoyed himself, but he's relieved when Reaper says she's ready to go. They have a raid tonight, after all. Because he's mentally exhausted being around so many people for hours on end. He wouldn't mind spending the next few days floating in a sensory deprivation tank filled with hand sanitizer. He's too tired to even put forth any real effort into freaking out about bringing the cute MT to the house. So it's not until she's carrying her computer in her arms and he's holding open the front door for her that he suddenly remembers the freak show inside. Soul frantically pulls the door shut before she can cross the threshold. Shit. Reaper Man is tired too, her eyeliner smudged and accentuating the bags under her eyes, but she is determined to raid come hell or high water. What? Are there naked people having sex in there? No. That would be easier to explain. How do you feel about clowns? He asks, face pinched with the knowledge that the next minute of his life can only end in mortification. Black Rock Reaper gives him a wary side-eye, hitching her PC a little higher in her arms to adjust the weight. How do I feel about them? Like, do you have phobic reactions to red noses or things of a circus pants nature? I don't think so, she says, looking as if she wants to laugh but hasn't decided if it's a good idea or not. He nods. That's good. Maybe we should stay here so you can enjoy the last few moments of a normal life while you still can. Just open the door, Eater. He gazes skyward, towards a heaven that is showing him no mercy right now, and pushes open the door for the second time. Reaper Man walks in, all business, her boots clacking against the hardwood floor. Soul, rooted, waits in silence on the porch. The boots stop. Her voice echoes from the parlor, a little breathless. Clowns! She says, the word having a new, radical meaning in her lexicon. The good news, he says, while madly trying to declown one of the guest bedrooms, is that you can't walk 10 feet in this place without running into a TV. Reaper sits on a circus-themed floor rug, plugging cables into the back of her computer. It's not that bad. I might be becoming a little blind to all the stripes already. Soul focuses on removing the family collection in an effort to not stare at a scantily clad girl hooking up her rig to the guest bedroom television. So, do you live with your mom? Here? She asks. Focus. Focus on the clowns. Nah, I live with my brother, LA. He's the one who was supposed to house sit this weekend, but dumped it on me to hang out with his boyfriend. Soul shoves sad faces into a closet with a foot, struggling to shut the door. He's in this long-distance thing with some DILF. Try HDMI 4, he advises. She changes the input channel on the TV and does a weary fist bump when her desktop appears on the screen. Her wallpaper is a photo of a younger Reaper and someone who might be a sister or mother standing on a beach, a shuttle launch pad in the distance. It's kind of adorable. Reaper doesn't even try to hide the fact she's Googling DILF. After adjusting her knowledge, she glances over her shoulder in curiosity. How old is your brother? 28, going on 12. He huffs at the closet and then throws his weight at it, finally getting the door to shut. Walks over to the guest bed and wearily collapses. When his last girl broke up with him, he moped for 3 months straight. Pulling off her wig, Reaper makes a sleepy, disgruntled face. Heartbreak is kind of a big deal, Eater. He waves a hand. Yeah, I get it. But they were together for 4 days, and she dumped him because she didn't want to play with his ass. There's a long beat of silence before Reaper curls up on herself, her laugh-cry hybrid muffled against the floor rug. Some things just aren't fated, she says sagely, between giggles. Some things just aren't possible. His expectations are hopeless. Reaper rolls to her back on the floor and rubs under an eye, frowning when her finger comes back coated in heavy makeup. She asks, What expectations aren't anymore? Shit, he blurts, sitting up. For example, all I'm hoping for is someone chill, and who doesn't get upset about not being done in the butt 4 days into a relationship. He pauses here, because Reaper's laughing too hard for him to continue. Which I think is perfectly reasonable. That, and I don't like weird mind games. Just someone straightforward. Cool and honest. Someone you can trust, she says simply. A mourning dove lilt in her voice that catches him off guard. He tries to get a read on her face, but she's looking at her desktop. One hand lazily stretched across the floor to push her mouse towards the World of Warcraft icon. Yeah, I guess so. Remembering her last night in the Denny's booth, asking, should I not trust you? Heart rate picking up now with a vengeance. What about you? He asks, hoping that hadn't sounded too interested. She shrugs against the floor. Basic spec. Loyal. Honest. Intelligent. Well, there goes that. Kind. Or at least not a big bag of dicks. This is looking bleaker by the second. Likes poetry and dubstep and can deal with me reading 4 nights a week. He scoffs, propping an elbow on his knee and resting his chin in his hand. Good luck with that. Go adopt a few cats. Get started early. Reaperman's head rolls towards him and she gives him a 1,000-yard stare. Very seriously, she utters, I already have one. Soul cracks up. She hadn't brought a mic, so he plants his system and a spare monitor on the floor with her so they can share his for the raid, though she admits that she probably won't say anything loud enough for it to register. Watching her tank, on a giant television at that, is nothing short of amazing. He can't comprehend how her keyboard hasn't been smashed to splinters with the force she uses to type and spam abilities. Death gets on his ass about his shitty damage per second tonight. He's distracted. She's a skilled player, and she still hasn't put on pants. So Soul grumbles into the mic. Careful what you wish for. Then, because he's immature and playing a video game, he ignores the threat meter, recklessly nuking the boss with a couple of fluke crits and grinning like a fool. Continues in this manner until Reaper, fake lashes fluttering as she watches the threat meter, screeches,
Back off, dipshit, or you're gonna get fucking stomped on!
which one is so startling he screams, and 2, hearing it originate from her actual mouth is hilarious enough that he rolls away on the floor, nearly in tears, while his character gets tail swiped into lava. She laughs at his expense, cackling in earnest, and his mic catches that, too. Voice chat then erupts, the rest of the guild suddenly realizing Soul Eater and Reaperman are in the same room together. The raid wipes in quick order, Death predictably losing his shit. Morning of day 2 of the con, his brain bleeding to wakefulness against the insistence of his still exhausted body because he hears her struggling with clowns in one of the bathrooms. Rolls off the parlor couch with a bad case of post-raid aftertaste in his mouth, relying heavily on the railing to plod up the stairs. The bathroom door is open, so he peeks his head around the corner. She's fresh out of the shower. Short shorts, black tee with "For the Horde" across the shoulders, wet hair twisted up in 3-foot-high towel turban. Why the fuck are you awake? He rasps. His voice startles her, Reaper flailing so violently that a clown is knocked off the sink to cartwheel through the air directly into the toilet. She makes a sound like a dying chew toy. "He fell in!" she squeaks. Hands flying to her mouth. Soul tries to tell her it's not the first time that's happened, but it comes out as coffee. "There's a panel I want to go to this morning," she explains at the kitchen table, using the front-facing camera on her phone to help her aim where to glue her elf ears. Soul slurps his macchiato fresh out of his mom's candy apple espresso machine. He needs to get one of these for Wes's apartment. He numbly gestures towards his own ears. "Dare I ask?" "Zelda," she answers, mouth stuck open on the duh as she concentrates. "Oh, at least he knows this one. Where's Link?" Reaper looks up at him, one hand holding her ear together while the glue dries. "About that." Soul very slowly sets coffee mug on the table and says, "Why do I have a horrible feeling I know what you're gonna say?" "That's a good sign, actually. I bet we'd be great in PvP arenas." "Don't change the subject." She gives him a meek little smile that is nothing short of captivating, and he's terrified of its power if it's this good with only a few hours of sleep backing it. "My friend who couldn't come was going to borrow my Link cosplay today, so I have it with me, and I think it might even fit you." No, 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 no. His knee hurts from resting on the concrete floor. "I am very, very displeased with you right now," he growls, camera flashes going off. Zelda smiles a regal smile, knighting him with a foam master sword. "Well, I'm a little put off that you can't fit into the pants. I mean, everything was baggy on me, but that means you look better in them." The pants, actually, are about a foot too short in the legs, but luckily there had been a pair of adequate riding boots in his brother's car that were enough to hide the hem. "How come I don't get the sword?" "You get an ocarina." "I do?" He stands, adjusting the shield strapped to his back for the millionth time. "Where is it?" Because if he's forced to look like an elf, he wants a toy to play with, damn it. Princess Reaper clucks her tongue, digging into the leather bag tied on his waist. Goosebumps fly under his shirt sleeves. She produces the instrument in canonical blue, slapping it into his hand. "Now summon me a pony." He glances to the various photographers and rubber-necked bystanders. Reaper's costumes are really legit, it seems like. She can't make it 15 feet before someone asks for a photo. "How's it go again?" Her face falls, one hand coming up to fiddle with one of the long bits of hair tied to the sides of her face. "I'm pretty tone deaf, so..." "Hey!" she says, turning to the cameras, completely fearless in the face of strangers. "Somebody whistle Epona song!" The room breaks out in a cacophony of whistles, but after a few moments it magically solidifies into a synchronized performance, which is both fucking weird, but also really neat, and somewhat of an encouraging mark for humanity. Yeah, okay. This is pretty cool. And completely against everything he's ever felt about putting on a show in front of a crowd of peers, he finds the simple notes and plays it back to them, an out-of-place nerd trying to speak to the mothership. The congoers burst into cheers and whistles, and Zelda gracefully claps her evening-gloved hands, her face plastered with a big, dorky grin that makes him spit laugh all over the ocarina with a rotten shriek of music. He's editing a frame-worthy Insta of Zelda shoving a clusterfuck blob of cheese dip and jalapenos into her royal face, when he's startled by some kind of blue armored ninja wearing a white mask. Somewhere behind him, Reaper is shelling out cash for a carefully wrapped fan comic, which leaves Soul to handle this sudden stranger alone. Hi? The cosplayer says nothing, merely hands out a flyer, pointing first at Soul and then at Reaper. Soul reluctantly takes the flyer with a bemused frown. Thanks. Turning the paper around in his hand, he recognizes the giant royal wing crest from the Zelda games, emblazoned across the top. It's an announcement for a party of LOZ nerds, or something.
Was that chic?
Reaper asks, walking over to him while tucking her dojin reverently into a backpack. Oh, chic. He should have recognized that one. Soul looks up, but finds the cosplayer has already disappeared. He blinks, wondering if he's hallucinating from all the nacho cheese and lack of sleep. Did that just happen? Reaper takes the flyer out of his hand.
Oh, we are so going to this.
We being the both of them, despite his protests. And this being an outdoor impromptu gathering consisting of mostly green-garbed elves all carrying master swords. Soul had it in his head that he would simply be a spectator on the sidelines, auto-following the tank around, but is reminded he is also dressed up as a green-garbed elf. Reaper's voice has gone bright and extra cheery with this many people around, chatting about sewing patterns, armor shaping, and other cons she's been to. She appears to be somewhat known for her detailed costumes. He's happy that she's enjoying herself, but he also kind of wants to disappear. The energy here is fast-paced and dizzying, and Soul's struggling to keep out of the by-proxy limelight because he's hovering near her for social protection. The gathering is centered around one of the resort's decorative gardens, a dedicated photographer organizing group shots around a large water fountain. People are squealing at each other constantly. People are squealing at him, asking him if he's some alternate Dark Link because of his hair. No, he just refused to put on the wig. Reaper cuts in. Bless her. Even though this is 1,000% her fault. I kind of bullied him into being my Link today. Hers. Soul sighs, defeated. Someone says, "Oh, you two came together? Go stand by the fountain!" And now he and Zelda are having a photo shoot, apparently. The other cosplayers at their gathering are getting into it too, helping the photographer with light reflectors and arranging the princess's gown just so. Well, he's used to photo shoots, more or less by virtue of being Wes's brother. Had a minuscule stint as a teen model too, though he abandoned that ship the moment he could. The majority of the poses the photographer is giving them, he's already mastered throughout the day inside the con. Kneeling at Zelda's feet, miming a kiss to her hand, accepting the sword from her, blah, blah, blah. This isn't so bad. He can survive this much if he doesn't have to talk to people he doesn't know. Zelda turns a little pink when someone suggests the two of them look like they're about to kiss. Face blank in an attempt to act his age and not revert to a teen model who gets jittery at the thought of kissing a cute girl. He watches her as she steps closer, cautiously taking his gloved hand and very purposefully slipping it snug on the curve of her waist. Okay then. This is apparently how they're rolling now. She's warm through her dress and his gloves, and her eyelashes do this downcast, sultry thing that makes the sun feel 12 times hotter than it had a minute ago. The photographer waves for him to move in closer, so Sol tilts his head down just the tiniest bit. The LOZ nerds start up the squealing again. I'm not really sure what's going on, he murmurs between shots, praying that his costume is washable because he is sweating buckets under it. They really want to take our pictures together for some reason, Reaper replies, tilting her body towards him. I don't mind so much, but if you want to stop. His chest is thud-thudding as he clings desperately to the group's growing excitement. It's fine. This is more than fine. This is a miracle in his hands. I'm cool, if you're cool. Yeah. Zelda's fingers hook into the leather strap that's keeping his shield on, tugging him even closer, with just enough force to light his blood on fire. May as well make it look good. Their poses become more risque by tiny increments, his hand inching down to the small of her back for one shot, holding still as she grazes his jaw with her nose for another. And as long as he doesn't think about how these few insane minutes will torture his memory for the rest of his life, he could say this is kind of fun. Sitting on the fountain's edge now, creamy-necked Zelda in his lap with her gown being micromanaged to fanatical perfection, Sol attempting to call on all the guarded but painfully hormonal fuckfaces his brother makes in pretty much every magazine advertisement, presses his lips to Zelda's temple as she's looking at the camera. The crowd eats it up, and he's so close to nervously laughing he almost ruins it. Someone finally shouts it. Make out for Haru's sake! This, despite coming in at number 1 of the top nerdiest things he's ever heard in his life, causes him to lean forward, tugged along by weird secondhand fandom momentum, to meet her halfway for some staged fake kiss. Oh, no, we're not actually, she stammers, tense and anxious in his lap. He is audience to the eerie, almost imperceptible shift as Reaper resurfaces out of the Zelda mask, wide-eyed, a bright blush inking down her neck. Predictably, photos of this face are also taken, but he vaguely feels, by way of churning gut twist, that they shouldn't have been. Very abruptly, he remembers what she'd said 2 nights ago at Denny's, admitting her general distrust of guys. Remembers how he'd plowed right over that statement without a second thought as she turns that cornered look on him, panic flashing in the forest of her eyes. Sol becomes achingly aware of himself and this budding crush of his, the one he decided that he wasn't going to have. He's the one being neither cool nor honest, entertaining any excuse to be near her, to pretend he's near her at all. This, therefore, probably qualifying him as a big bag of dicks. He gives her a closed-lipped smile, and a bunch of camera flashes go off for that one too. The moment feels more like paparazzi than studio now, and he reflexively arms himself with his tried-and-true generic expression of apathy. Leans away as casually as he can, but it's already clear to everyone in a 20-mile radius that he'd been right there, ready to kiss her glossy princess lips. This isn't his scene at all, and his tenuous grasp on his brother's skill for this situation has been thoroughly lost. But then Reaper says, voice pitched high and tight,
"Just one. Understand?"
The noise of the gathering, which now includes stray congoers who had been passing by, grows by an order of magnitude. The photographer scurrying around for the ideal shot. Reaper shifts in his lap. The crowd instantly disappears from his awareness. What? He tries to say, his arm automatically coming around her waist to keep her from falling. She's fussing with his hat, tucking his erratic hair into place.
"Sorry about this,"
she murmurs, only loud enough for him to hear, the world bursting into camera flashes.
"You lead, okay?"
Lead? He can't lead. He's only ever followed her around. But his stupid mouth parrots back, okay. Automatic. Twisting to face him, she places her hands on his shoulders, slowly bringing them up to his jaw to cup his face, leaning down, pressing in. She could fake it, mime a kiss like a high school play behind her shielding hands. But even before she does it, he already knows she won't. She doesn't half-ass anything, and he's entangled with her, so it's impossible for him to do anything less. The arm he's using to support her back brings her closer, fingers playing in the laces of her dress. She sighs raggedly between his teeth, and then he's taking one of her hands from his face, holding it away as his lips work against hers, leading, teasing, tasting. Her lip gloss is sticky. She doesn't do much, stoically accepting his mouth as is fit a royal princess. But there's a blood-burning bit of curiosity in her tongue when he presses his own against it and feels her test his mouth. Her fingers fall down his jaw, crawling to his neck to fist in his collar, and he lets out the smallest accidental noise, praying the crowd is too loud for her to hear it. He risks a small bite on her bottom lip, gently feeling up her leg just enough to ruffle her gown. And Zelda pulls away slowly, in character, with bright, bright eyes. He can feel her breathing heavily in his arms, the blush reaching to her ears, dead ends at the pointy elf extensions. The crowd morphs into a lot of sloppy cat calls and wolf whistles. Sol nervously offers her a shaken-up smile, and it's very much Reaper who gradually, girlishly returns it, shoulders hitching with a giggle as she takes a gloved hand and wipes lip gloss off the edge of his lips. That picture is taken too. Her mouth is a little swollen, and it hits him then, with the force of a landslide, that he is in deep, deep shit.